Hello everybody from Plant Reviews, today 10th of October, and today I will talk about one of my favorite orchids in my collection, and is Cattleya maxima, classified by Lindley in 1833. This plant belongs to the genus Cattleya, that it is my favorite genus by far among orchids, because to this genus belong the orchids that, in my opinion, are the most beautiful for the variety of colors, for the shape. Is actually the shape is the typical shape of what people think about orchids when they really think about this beautiful family of plants, and also most of the species in the genus Cattleya, and as well as many hybrids, have a wonderful fragrance, and the Cattleya maxima is no exception. Indeed, it has a beautiful fragrance, quite light, not very intense, of heliotrope. This is in my experience, because I discussed with other Cattleya maxima owners, and they say that some of them, they actually smell a very delicate scent. However, some others smell a very intense fragrance. So I believe that in this case, like for the color varieties of the species, even the fragrance in the species might be quite variable among individuals. This species is a sympodial orchids, like all Cattleyas. So basically it doesn't grow kind of upwards as Phalaenopsis might be, but basically grows sideways. So as you can see from the older part, the pseudobulbs originates a new pseudobulb that produces only one leaf. This is indeed belong to the group of Cattleyas that produce only one leaf per pseudobulb, while some others produce two leaves per pseudobulb, and from each pseudobulb can grow one flower stem that can have one or more flowers according to the species of Cattleya. This species, Cattleya maxima, actually has two different kind of growth habits. It's still a sympodial, obviously, like all Cattleyas. However, what changes in the two different populations are actually the pseudobulbs. This one that I have, and I believe it is the upland form. I bought it from Oriente Orchids in Spain about 4 years ago. And it has quite short pseudobulbs. They are about 15 centimeters tall, and the leaves as well. They are about 15 centimeters long, and about 5 centimeters, 4.5 actually centimeters. They don't even arrive at 5 centimeters in the widest part of the leaf. While the other population of the other growth habit of the Cattleya maxima is actually a huge plant. This plant grows at sea level, and has very tall pseudobulbs and very tall leaves as well, and it can reach even 60 centimeters tall. Is actually quite a giant in comparison to the upland population of Cattleya maxima, as this is my case. The tag on the orchid I have doesn't specify that the plant is an upland form. However, according to the description I found on Arthur Chadwick website, that is one of the best websites if you love Cattleyas. This is indeed the one of the populations of the upland forms. The upland forms also is a very nice peculiarity, and is the lip. The upland forms have a very dark lip, against which the yellow stripe really stands out in this, I would say, purple ocean. And this is one of the features I like the most in this species. The upland form instead have flowers that are not so dramatic in color pattern. I found that mostly comes in lavender forms. However, there is some variability in colors in the species, and I will tell you in a couple of minutes. Cattleya maxima is a species that blooms in autumn. In 4 years, this orchid has bloomed every year for me. Basically, with blooming within late September and mid-November. This year, this Cattleya decided to bloom on the 10th of, in mid-October. It started opening the buds a couple of days ago. These are the first 2 buds, well, not buds anymore. They opened fully, the buds of these flowers opened fully a couple of days ago, while these ones are opening just right now. But unfortunately, these other 2 flowers have a quite weird growth, I believe because evidently during the formation of the flower stem, I must have changed the position inadvertently to the plant, and so these flowers, this flower stem actually grew basically in a zigzag way. The flower stem develops in the orchids always trying to reach the most luminous part, so the sun. Obviously, if you move around the orchid, the pot, basically the flower stem that started to grow in one direction, if you move the pot in another position, obviously the flower stem will change direction. The flower stem growth will change direction because obviously we'll just try to reach the sun. And I suppose this is what might have caused the flower stem to develop in this very curved, like kind of zigzag way. And this also made these flowers direct weirdly downwards rather than upwards, because basically the flower stem developed underneath the leaves, and obviously if the flower stem developed underneath leaves, the most luminous part from which the light comes around is actually from the bottom and not from the top, as it should be. So you can see that the flowers are very weirdly shaped and directed. These other couple of flowers of another pseudobulb. However, I'm really glad that at least 2 have been able to flower beautifully, and as you can see, the shape is absolutely incredible in this species. What I like in particular is that the petals and the sepals are quite narrow. They are not really flat as many other orchids. And I wouldn't say that this plant has a spidery appearance, but I think it's very graceful, the fact that the petals are much longer than wider. And what I like the most is that while the sepals are just like a flat pink, flat lavender, the 2 petals are still lavender and pink, but they have a beautiful veining, very delicate, that kind of matches the veining that is present on the lip as well, both in the external part, as you can see, but even more intricate is on the lip. You can see how beautiful the veining is. It basically makes a kind of netting that it is absolutely one of the most elegant features and typical actually of this of most varieties of this species. And as I said, what really stands out and make this species easily recognizable in comparison to other species of Cattleya is the very straight and very bright yellow stripe in the middle of the lip. No other Cattleyas has such a feature, so striking and so bright yellow stripe in the middle of the lip, contrasting so well with this intricate purple veining on the lip. And obviously what I love of the lip as well is the fact that it's really frilly. Not as frilly obviously as, say, Rincolelia digbiana, but still it is a very elegant look that this flower has. In addition to the beauty of the flower, I love the fragrance. As I said, in my case, it's not particularly intense. It's actually quite light. Still, you can smell it if you put your nose close to the flower, and it is really similar to the fragrance of the heliotrope. So kind of sweet, but not sickly sweet. It is absolutely pleasant to smell. Other forms of this plant, while this is a lavender form, there are other forms as well. Some have a darker pink, almost red, and some others are white. There are also some cerulean forms. They have this kind of light purplish color. There is also some pale pinks as well. This typical, however, the typical dark lip, the dark purple lip, is typical of the upland form. So the upland form that basically usually grows on the Andes slopes between 3,000 and 6,000 foot high, while, as I said, the lowland form grows usually at sea level. Another difference between the two populations, the two growth habits, is that while the lowland forms can have a really huge amount of flowers, they can bear up to 21 flowers per spike. The upland form, like mine, usually has just 3 to 5 flowers per stem. In my case, unfortunately, only 2 per stem, but I'm quite lucky because I got 2 flower stems on 2 different pseudobulbs, so I have a total of 4 flowers, and actually I am very pleased about it because it's for total number of flowers this year is the highest number of flowers I have. I usually have just 3 flowers from just 1 flower stem, 1 pseudobulb blooming, while this year 2 pseudobulbs bloomed. Unfortunately, only 2 flowers on each flower stem, but the total number of flowers of 4 flowers makes me very happy. About the flower size, the flower size is can reach about 7 inches wide, so about 15 centimeters. Or between 15 and 17.5 centimeters. My flowers actually are pretty small. They're about 10 centimeters in diameter. I would suppose, because this plant probably didn't have that much sun this year, or possibly because the fact that this plant produced 4 flowers this year made the size of the flowers smaller, a little bit smaller than this plant usually blooms. Indeed, this year actually the flowers for me are a bit smaller. I remember last year were a bit bigger, but still, as you can see, the shape and the color is absolutely beautiful. And actually, talking about the flower, this leads a clue about the name of the Cattleya, Cattleya maxima. Cattleya maxima indeed means the biggest. A flower that is about 7 inches wide, so about 17.5 centimeters wide, really is not definitely, for what we know now, one of the biggest flowers of Cattleyas. Say a Cattleya warszawicza can reach a way bigger size, as well as many other hybrids and other species as well. However, back then, when this plant was classified in 1833, the flowers were actually, of 7 inches, were actually very big in comparison to all the other Cattleyas known back then, because there were just a handful of Cattleyas, of which 3 were bifoliate that have very small flowers in comparison to the plant, while the only other plant that was a unifoliate that basically could have rivaled Cattleya maxima. The flower was known from a from a plant that was kind of mistreated, growing in England, and actually the Cattleya, it was Cattleya labiata. So this Cattleya labiata developed a flower quite small in comparison to the species. So when the botanists, when Lindley found the flower of this Cattleya reaching a size of 7 inch, he thought this would have been the biggest flower of any Cattleya, or at least this was the biggest flower of any Cattleya known back then. So he decided to name this plant Cattleya maxima for the size of the flower. As I said, do not buy this plant for the size of the flower, because it's absolutely not that big. Cattleya varshavictia, as I said, is a much bigger flower. However, if you want, and I really would recommend for any Cattleya collection, buy this species for the beauty of the flower and really for the intricate veining of the lip that is really, really unique. I don't have any other Cattleya so with such a beautiful pattern on the lip. The plant can be grown. It's very easy to grow for a Cattleya. Cattleyas are not difficult plants to grow, but I would say that among Cattleyas, this is actually, I found this plant very easy to grow. I received this plant in bark, and it grew in bark perfectly fine for about a year. Then I decided to change it to semi-hydro, and the plant adapted really, really well, blooming every year, even after the change to semi-hydro. So basically, definitely, I would recommend both bark and semi-hydro as a way to grow this plant. About the sunlight, this plant, I found that if you put it in a south-facing windowsill, this plant tends to burn quite easily. So definitely it's not like a Cattleya varshavictiae or a Rhyncholelia digbyana. As you can see, these are the, I thought that all Cattleyas had pretty much the same need about sunlight. However, you can see in this old leaf, this is basically a remnant of a sunburn. And also now you see the leaves, the green, but in the period that I had this Cattleya on the south-facing windowsill, it developed a really, really reddish color. That usually means that the plant doesn't really like the condition and is going to burn pretty soon. And also the old leaves have developed this kind of pattern that I'm not too sure if it's a fungal infection or just the fact that, or just like a start of a sunburn back then. However, the new leaves, as you can see, are absolutely green without any kind of black spot, and I'm really including this one that developed the flower, so I'm really glad that the plant enjoys the new condition. I grow this plant on a east-facing windowsill, and the plant is very happy, receives direct sunlight only in the early morning from about sunrise up to 11:30 midday at the most, and then just receives indirect sunlight for the rest of the day. In these conditions, the plant manages still to bloom every year, so I am pretty sure that the plant enjoys very much this eastern facing windowsill. I live in the UK, in Kent, that is one of the, well, the sunniest county in England, so I would say that This Cattleya anyway receives enough sun throughout the year. Otherwise, it would have not bloomed regularly every year as it does. If you want to grow this plant in another position, say in a south-facing or a western-facing windowsill, remember to cover the windowsill in a way that protects, especially in spring and summer and early autumn, that protects the plant against especially in the hottest part of the day, against the direct sunlight. About the plant conditions indoors, I found this species not having really a particular requirement of humidity. At home, what I do actually is that I cultivate this plant as most of my other Cattleyas in the top part of my house. My house is a terraced house, so there's quite a difference in temperature between the ground floor and the second floor where I cultivate this plant. And considering that in winter, when I use obviously the heating to heat the house, the heat tends to obviously warms and concentrate in the upper level. What I do in winter is that I just switch the heaters of the second floor off completely, and still, even with that, the house is warm enough both during the day and during the night. For Cattleyas in general, it's always better to have some degrees difference between day and night, and me switching the heaters off permanently on my second floor, I am able to achieve that, and I can guarantee to you that I am perfectly fine. I don't do it just for my plants, I do it for myself as well, because me too, when I sleep, I prefer to sleep a little bit on the cold side rather than on the super hot side, especially in winter, because I don't really like too much of a temperature shock when I wake up in the morning anyway, in the middle of the winter. So I prefer to have a good sleep in not in the cold, but in pretty cool conditions, rather than in a too hot temperature that causes troubles to sleep for me anyway. Well, sorry for the 5 minutes discussion about how I prefer to sleep in the winter. Anyway, as I said, do not put any plant, especially this kind of orchids, on a windowsill that is just on the top of a heater, as it is this one, unless obviously, like me, you switch it off during the winter. Otherwise, just put the plant in a very luminous area, as I said, not direct sunlight, unless it's an eastern facing windowsill, and this plant will grow and bloom very, very easily. Fertilizing, I fertilize it with orchid fertilizer about once every month, and the plants love it. I've never had any problem, and as I said, this plant blooms for me every year. So I really can recommend this species as one of the most beautiful Cattleya species you can get. Very easy to grow, and extremely elegant for the flowers that have also a very nice fragrance. And I really, really do love the pattern of the lip, this very, very intricate net of dark purple against this pale pink, and even more this bright yellow stripe that contrasts so well with the rest of the lip color. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the video, it would be great if you please give it thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, obviously, please give it a thumbs down, and let me know what you did like or didn't like of the video. And if you would like to support my channel, it would be great if you can please subscribe. And again, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.